What's going on, everyone? It's Eric from Erik Soriano Design, and today we're gonna pick up right where we left off in the previous video. Today I'll dive into another powerful feature of Figma that's really widely used, called auto layout. And to begin doing that, I'll just grab one of the already existing components we have. Let's just duplicate a circle. If you remember from the previous lesson, how you just quickly duplicate is while you select an item on the keyboard. If you're using Mac, you hold Shift and Option at the same time and you just drag the item. If you're on Windows, it's Command Shift or Control Shift. Now that we duplicated the circle, what we're going to do is, if you notice on the right side panel, this is where all the editing occurs. We're going to do the same and duplicate another circle. So while holding the red circle, press Option Shift on the keyboard. And now we're gonna have two circles next to each other, right? So just the same copy as we have above. Let me select both of those, and I will press on the plus icon next to the row called Auto Layout, and watch what happens. The moment I do this, Figma basically, oh, it looks like I duplicated a circle by mistake. So what this is basically a feature for responsive design. Think about when you design a website or an application, it needs to work on a mobile device, on a phone or a tablet or a big screen or a computer, right? So how you accomplish that is, when you do auto layout, it allows you to control the spacing between the items, whether it's to the sides, right or left, or above, top or bottom. And I'm gonna give it a value of 16 for now, just so you can see. And I can manipulate the spacing between objects. And if you notice, the moment I add more space, because there's 3 items in the layout, I have this bounding box here in blue. It will try to fit however it can, and because there's no more space, it will just push the item to create a column. Let me go ahead and show you what that looks like. If you notice, if I extend the actual container, the parent container, if you will, everything inside, it will try to take up all the space and rearrange all the elements inside. Similarly, you can use this grid here to position the items, whether you want it to be aligned top left, top center, top right, align center, and so on and so forth, right? And look, watch what happens when I resize the bounding box. Now this is because I gave it a gap value of almost 100. That's generally too much. You can also set it to auto, and what this does is it will automatically resize accordingly without me having to give it an integer. But I like to keep it simple. Let's go back to 16. That's the value I use in most of my interfaces that I use. And watch what happens if I click into one of the circles, and if I click Command D or Control D on a Windows, it creates another copy, and all the copies I keep creating are just going to be fitting inside the layout. Look, so I can have as many as I want, and this is how responsive design works. And you can see how, for example, you can design a component like this, a group of items on a desktop. If you wonder what it looks like on a mobile, you just kind of resize accordingly. A mobile device would be more like this, like a column. And think about cards or photos or like a grid, right? Another powerful feature of the auto layout is that, like I said, you can set the spacing between top or bottom for each of the items. You can also set the padding between sides, or between the items inside. Let's set it to 16 just to see what it looks like. Got it. And another thing to look at in the design panel here is, right now, because I'm manipulating the container freely, it becomes a fixed width. Now if I click on hug contents, basically what this does is it tries to accommodate all of the circles in the same row to avoid having to to create a column like this. You don't always want this. Sometimes it's useful, but most of the time you're gonna have another value which is not visible here called fill, right? So this is when you have, and let me see if I can show you an example. I can create yet another container. I'm gonna put the circles at the background, and having selected, pay attention to this. So the frame one, which is itself a group of circles that are responsive, that's an order layout, that's a group. You'll see when it's a group when you look at the left side panel, and if you notice here where I have the hashtag indicator of the frame, an auto layout is indicated by just a group of like a grid of little squares. Now I have this rectangle item, and if I want to create yet another auto layout, I can do that too. So you can have auto layouts nested within auto layouts, kind of like a Russian doll concept. Let's go ahead and create auto layout for these two, and it looks like something happened. Let me create an auto layout here. And what I basically happens now is, if you remember before, when I clicked in the first auto layout, the one where the circles are, the group, the only options I had were the fixed width, which is when I was manipulating the width manually like this, or you also had hug, in which it tried to fit all the circles in the same row. And now there's a third option added called fill container. This is what I was talking about. And this one basically, because it's an auto layout, which itself it's a child of the other auto layout, which is frame 2. Now if I set this to fill container, it will try its best to fit within, like adjust directly with the container. So it inherits all the behavior and the width and height of the new container parent. But in order for it to do that, this needs to be filled. If I change this to fixed and I resize the new parent auto layout, nothing would fix, nothing would resize, because it's basically saying, like, do you want to obey and inherit the space, like try to fit within the parent? If you say fix, it will try to do its own thing. It's not going to obey. If you set hug contents, again, it's going to just fit the items relative to itself, to the child container. But because we have it as part of, because it is a child of the other bigger container, we want to make sure this is filled, so it follows whatever space it has available. And we want to make sure we want to do that for both the width and the height. And look what happens. It resizes really nicely. And right now there's the space, the padding on the sides is because by default it gave it these values, but I can change this to 16 as well. I can change this both between top or bottom or right or left. That's very controllable, like this. And it'll get to a point where it will, the circles, because the circles again are not responsive. If I double click in the circles, you see on the panel that they're fixed. If I change them all to fill container, they're going to resize to all fit inside the gray container. And let me show you another trick that Figma recently introduced. So when you click on an item and there's multiple instances of that item, you can click on this 4 squares grid icon on the top. Basically this is the bulk edit feature. So whenever you click this, right now it's, for some reason it's not working, but ideally it would select all the circles, like right now I'm doing one by one. It would select all the items that are exactly the same. You can click this item and then you can change the value for all of them at the same time. And look at what happens here. That's a weird behavior, but what it's doing is it's trying to fill the circles inside this gray container, like this. Let's do Command Z to undo, Control Z on Windows, Command Z on Mac, a couple of times. And let's worry about the circles resizing later, but hopefully just to recap what we learned today. Auto layout, which is basically when you want to make sure the space between a group of items is the same, top to bottom or right to left, you put them in a layout, which itself can be part of another auto layout, right? So you can have responsive items across the board. You can even look, I can't even do yet another level of nesting. Let's just let me make a bigger rectangle here, And I'm just gonna move it below, and I'm just going to recolor it, I don't know, like a darker red, and I'm gonna select all those three. And mind you, I haven't not clicked auto layout again, so right now there's not 3 auto layouts, there's not 2 groups, there's only the first one I made, the frame 1, right? So the space between the circles, top to bottom, and then the second frame, which is the group of all the circles inside the gray container, the space, you know, between those 2 items. And now if I selected, I added a third rectangle. If I select all and click auto layout once again, the same behavior will occur. So like I said, you can have multiple auto layouts, and the reason why it's left aligned is because by default, if you notice this one, the alignment option, if I put it to center, it's gonna center it. And if I wanted to manipulate the other auto layouts, again, I would have to click or double click into the second one, manipulate any values I want there, and then click once again to access the circles. And let's go ahead and click change the multi-fill container. Let's click this one. It's make it itself fill the container. And let's add a few more padding because this is a bigger container. That way we can see. Actually, let's make it 56. And now again, the parent of the parent, or if you can say the grandparent, being the red container, whatever I do to it, the parent container, the gray one, is going to inherit it. And thus, the children container with the circles will inheriting as well. And this is basically a basic overview of auto layout. I'll go even a little deeper in a different session, but that's all I had to share for today. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please leave a like, share, and subscribe for more cool Figma tips and other design tips and tutorials in general. Next time we're gonna look into another main feature of Figma, which is the components, and basically saving a master component that you can reuse across the board. That way you don't have to make changes individually, and we'll keep using the circles, for example. But until next time, thank you so much.